Hey, welcome back to Daily Flash. I'm Mitch English. In a world where division and uncertainty are really prevalent, the need for genuine connections very critical. But how can we actually remain connected when our opinions diverge and times are really unpredictable? Well, our next guest, best-selling author TJ Woodward, says the answer lies in living in the question. TJ joins us now. TJ, welcome back to Daily Flash. We're so glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Mitch. I'm delighted to be here for this, I think, very important conversation about how we can remain connected with each other.
I appreciate that because you think about where we're at in the world, where I can call somebody in Japan right now and see them right here on my screen. And we think, oh, this world is so connected. But really, it's actually pushing us a little bit apart, I would imagine. Tell us first, as I said in the intro here, what does living in the question actually mean?
Well, living in the question is actually quite simple. Most of us have been trained to seek answers. From a very early age in school, we are taught what is the right answer, what is the right answer. So when we are only seeking answers, it can cause division. Asking ourselves open-ended questions actually open us up to curiosity and can actually create greater connection, even if we're talking with someone who we have divergent opinions with.
Okay, as you were saying that, I was thinking of some social media sites where one in particular where you usually follow people on this social media site that believe the same way that you do. And with that, it seems like, are you really learning anything if you're hearing the same thing over and over? We see news networks now that kind of go to the right, go to the left. How important is it for us, because you kind of alluded to that, how important is it for us to see all sides and still remain true to our values and that sort of thing?
Well, we have been taught that we are in a polarized country or a polarized world. I actually think we've been conditioned to have polarized thinking, the idea of us and them and good and bad and right and wrong. And as you said, now with the advent of social media, it seems like more and more we're trying to find a group of like-minded people.
Yeah.
Another way of saying that is let me just find a bunch of people who agree with me. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with that, as you alluded to as well, that doesn't really create a broader connection with people who have different opinions, and also doesn't it open us up to seeing the world in a different and unique way?
I love that. I mean, that's poetic almost. And you also talk about in your book about the need to be right. Kind of like, well, I live most of my life that way. Like I always had to be right. But that's a trap. Explain why.
Well, as I said, we get conditioned from a very early age to always be right or to look for the right answer, but we know that can create division or separation. So there's nothing inherently wrong with trying to be right, but the question is, does it create more connection? And a lot of times we'll hear people say, well, we're just going to agree to disagree. I
Yeah.
actually think there's a greater possibility. We can remain connected if we realize I have opinions, but I'm not my opinions. Then I can actually genuinely hear someone and ask them, why do you believe the way you do? Because, it's not always about just surrounding ourselves with everyone who agrees with us.
I totally agree with that. And I think those blinders can really be detrimental to where we wind up eventually, in life. Just like, well, I've always done this. And then you realize, wow, you really could have seen the whole world and maybe experienced different things. So as you said that, that's what kind of crossed my mind. But you also talk about the importance of open-ended questions. Why are they so important to be open-ended instead of maybe a direct answer?
Well, I think there's two things. One, an open-ended question, as we've said, will create more connection. So rather than telling someone my opinion or kind of drilling into telling them why we think they're wrong, I can ask open-ended questions. Where did you start believing that? What made you come to that decision? Where might we meet in the middle, or where might we find agreement? But the other part to open-ended questions is to ask ourselves open-ended
Okay.
questions, and that then can create more curiosity.
All right, now you got to give me some examples of how we can actually ask ourselves those open-ended questions, which actually would probably help me ask open-ended questions to other people. Give me some examples.
Yeah. So if I find myself having a reaction, whether that's internal or external, oh, I don't agree with that. We're on social, we see something, we get that charge. We can pause, take a breath. We can ask questions like, where did I first start believing this? What do I experience when I believe this? What if there's a different way to look at this? Some of my favorite open-ended questions are, how does it get even better than this?
Oh,
And
yeah.
what else is possible? Those questions will open us up to start seeing things in a unique way.
I appreciate that because it says, a lot of times when you kind of reach a goal, you're at a point, you're like, all right, I've done it. But if I'm able to open up my mind to say, well, where else can we go beyond that? It actually will keep me chasing the carrot for knowledge. And then I look back in the wake of me, I've actually learned that many things. Let's say we're on a place where maybe it seems like family is really where we see a lot of issues because we are a little bit more honest and more of ourselves around our family. Do you find that dynamic allows for open-ended, or it's like, okay, I'm going to be this way? Do you see, I guess what I'm asking is, in families, do you see this more of an issue than maybe socially?
Yeah, I think with families, we can say our families push our buttons because they installed them, right? We have a lot of history, but we can actually pause and ask ourselves, am I willing to connect with this person, this family member, even though we have this long history of disagreement? If I can pause, feel what I'm feeling rather than reacting, because I think the greatest freedom we'll ever experience is freedom from the reactive impulse. Take a breath, then ask an open-ended question or two. I think it's a great experiment, so I invite people to try it. And I used to say, when in doubt, ask 3 questions, and that really changed my life.
I like that. And I could see that being something that could be very, very beneficial for, not individually, but collectively as a society. I love this. You want to find out more about TJ? These are great. And TJ, we want you back on the show. You can check out his books. Go to tjwoodward.com, or you can go to wholehearted.org. We'll have links on our website as well. You can go to dailyflashshow.com. Stick around. We got a whole lot more of today's trends in tomorrow's talk. And by the way, when you go to our website, anything you see on the show, you'll be able to see there. dailyflashshow.com. We got more coming up right after this. Don't go anywhere.